Hey, Mitchell Sigmund for Acoustica Zeros and Ones blog, yet again. After our last installment, we're going to assume that you've successfully recorded a human person singing, and now we want to take it to the next step and edit it inside the DAW. More than likely, you've recorded more than one take of the lead vocal performance, so we need to go through the takes and sort out which are the best bits and edit them together to make one continuous vocal track. Back in the olden days of analog tape recording, you really had a lot less options as far as recording goes. In other words, you couldn't record endless takes because you had limited numbers of tracks, and punching parts in was pretty difficult because you had to have a really quick finger on the button, and some recorders didn't let you tightly punch things. So things were a lot more difficult then, and as a result, a lot of decisions were sort of made for you. In other words, you just didn't have the options that you have these days. Now, of course, these days you can record as many takes as your hard drive will hold, and you can do crazy microscopic edits. And this is all great, but it can really bog you down because some of the time you can end up recording 10 takes of the same thing, and the singer will insist on doing it over and over and over and over again. And then when it comes time to sort out all the comping, you've got 10 takes of things to go through. And believe me, trying to go through 10 complete takes of a lead vocal and comp the best line, or even worse, the best words of everything, can be really mind-numbing. And truthfully, when you stitch together a performance word by word, it sounds disjointed and weird. So I would avoid that. And sometimes, depending on the performer, sometimes you sort of have to put your foot down in a tactful way and say, hey, this is sort of diminishing returns and we're kind of making a mess here. So try to stay focused, and I usually try to keep it to a maximum of about 3 takes to go through and sort through and get my master performance of the best things. If you're unable to stitch together a good performance out of 3 complete takes, then it's probably not that good in the first place, and maybe you need to redo it. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do more than 3 takes while you're recording. You can do a whole bunch of them, but you can tell when they're getting in, for lack of better terminology, the zone. And I just get rid of all the ones before that, and I just keep the best ones, which is usually 2 or 3 of them, and then I go from there.
So for our sample project here, I've mixed all the music down to one stereo file, and that makes things less cluttered, of course. And here are 2 lead vocal takes over here. So I can mute one of them and just play everything back. I don't know, and that's our dry vocal. I can listen to the other one by pressing the mute button and unmuting our second take over here. What I want to do is find the things I like from each of these takes and put them together into one track, which I'm going to drag up here. The way you do this is you just listen to each individual line. I don't know if I'm strong enough to. So that's the first line of take 1. Here's take 2. I don't know if I'm strong enough to. So let's say I like this first part, this first little line right here. Let me zoom in a little bit. And then I'm going to place the caret right here. I'm actually going to turn off the snap here so it makes it a little easier to put the caret wherever I want it. And I'm going to right click and split. And then I'm going to pull this guy up here. And as you can see, I made this track red, so we can tell it's the real deal lead vocal comp. And let's say that I liked this part right here. Right click, split, and move that over there. Right click, split, and you can also hit Control T if you want to do the keystroke. Pull that guy up there. And when I'm pulling these up, I'm holding down the Shift key, and the reason why I'm doing that is if I don't, you can see where that just moved. If you don't hold down the Shift key, they can move and cause timing havoc. Right now it's snapping to the grid, like up there. If you have snap off, you can move it anywhere. And again, this can really wreak havoc with your timing. So remember to hold down the Shift key. You see the little arrows happen there. And I'm going to move that up. It can be a little bit tedious because there's a lot to listen to. And this is why I said don't record 10 tracks of vocals to go through. Keep in mind you can do as tiny of an edit as you like. If you like one word, you can hack out single words and that kind of thing. But the more you do precarious edits like that, the more it can sound disjointed. So I try not to chop things up into super tiny bits unless there's really one trouble word, that kind of thing. But if you have a problem with a certain phrase or word, you can sometimes get away with some pretty amazing, ridiculous edits, sometimes in the middle of actual words, that kind of thing. And Mixcraft's crossfading will make it inaudible, so it's kind of amazing sometimes that way. Once you have all the takes selected and everything is comped, you can highlight the whole thing and you can merge it together. And this will make it one piece of audio, so it really won't affect the audio quality, but it'll look a lot prettier and it'll be easier to move around.
Once the vocal is all comped together, the next thing I usually do is to tune it. Now, obviously, there's going to be an aesthetic choice here because some singers you won't want to tune. If it's early hard rock or punk type thing, maybe you want it to be a little looser and rougher. But most things benefit from tuning. It also, of course, depends on the singer themselves. Some people sing really in key and won't need tuning, and other singers are all over the place and will need a lot of help. You can use Mixcraft's G-Snap, which is a built-in vocal tuning plugin, or you can use something like Antares Auto-Tune, or if you really want to go crazy, you can use Celemony Melodyne, which is a very powerful standalone vocal tuning program. In this example, we're going to use G-Snap, and I'll show you a couple tricks.
All right, now that we've got everything comped together, I've gone and muted these two tracks here. And now I'm going to add a vocal tuning plugin. So we're going to click on the effects button over here, and click on the little arrow right there, and scroll down and choose G-Snap Pitch Correction. And I'm going to hit the edit button to see what's going on. And right now this is set to subtle pitch correction, and it's in chromatic mode. So what that means is it's going to tune every half step to whatever the closest next half step is. If you know the key of your song, you can press set key over here, and you can actually tell it what key it's in and whether it's major or minor. In the case of this particular song, it goes back and forth from E major to E minor, so this isn't going to work very well. So I'm not going to set that. I'm going to leave it in chromatic mode. And you can use the attack control to determine how quickly the pitch correction comes on. So if you've got it down low, it's going to happen real fast and potentially be more robotic sounding. So you can also use the amount, which is how much it actually pulls it back to pitch. Now the attack control is one of the most important controls in here, and usually you're going to have to use a quicker attack if the singer is more off-key. If the singer is pretty on top of things, then you can use a slower attack, which will sound more natural, because what will happen is if a singer hits a note and goes, duh, and they're sharp on the top of that like I just was, then you're going to want the attack faster so it catches that off-key note more quickly. But if the singer is pretty on top of things and they just drift a little over time, a longer attack will just slowly bring it back in. So let's get out of here now that we've got this set. And now our pitch correct plugin is all set up.